All right, so for 12.5, guys, we're talking about circles in the coordinate plane. So we're going to take circles and we're going to graph them, or they're going to be given as graph. We're going to find the center and the radius, all that stuff. So an equation of a circle with a center of h and k and a radius r is this. It says x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. You do not need to memorize this formula because it is on your formula sheet. But we always have an x and a y, but you'll notice that we have an h and a k. What that is that's our center point over here. We have an h and a k there as our center, and then obviously you know that r is our radius, which would be the distance from here to here. So we would also have to incorporate distance formula with this sometimes, all right? So we're going to use that formula to do examples 1 and 2 here. It says, what is the standard equation of a circle with a center of 5, -2, and a radius of 7? So if we remember, it's x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So we're just going to take everything and plug it in. We know that h is 5, k is going to be -2, and r is 7. So we take everything and we plug it in. We have x minus 5 squared plus y minus -2 squared equals 7 squared. At this point, we just need to clean it up a little bit. So x minus 5 squared plus y plus 2, because when we have a minus negative, it's plus 2 squared equals 7 squared is 49. And that's our answer. That's where we stop. That is the equation of a circle. Hopefully pretty easy. So let's go ahead and try the next one here. We know that h is 3, k is 5, and r is 6. So we plug it in. We're going to say that we get x minus 3 squared plus y minus 5 squared equals the radius squared, so 6 squared. Again, just cleaning it up a little bit, we get x minus 3 squared plus y minus 5 squared equals 36. All right? And that's our answer. Pretty easy for equation of a circle, hopefully. All right? Now, the true test is if you can take something that's graphed and write the equation. This one, they give you words, but they also might just give you the graph. So we're going to do it with the graphs on this one. Then the next one, we're going to use it without a graph. So the first thing you should notice is we know what our center is. Our center is at 1, -3. All right? So we have center at 1, -3. And then we need to know what our radius is. Well, that we don't know because our radius is the distance from here to here. They did give me a point, but they did not give me a radius, all right? Now, you should also know that a radius could go in any direction, so it could go up, down, left, right, so on and so forth. So here's how we're going to do this. We're going to start by plugging in our equation. We're going to say x minus, well, we know h is 1, so 1 squared, plus y minus -3 squared equals r squared. And we're going to figure out what r is by using this point. All right, so we know that this is an x and a y. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the x out over here, and I'm going to put 2 in for it. So 2 minus 1 squared plus, and then I'm going to take that y out and put 2 in its place. So 2 plus 3 squared. I'm just cleaning that up a little bit, right? 2 minus 1 is 1. 1 squared is 1. 2 plus 3 is 5. 5 squared is 25 equals r squared. So we now know that 26 equals r squared. So what we need to do is we need to go ahead and take the square root of that. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you. When we're dealing with circles, you want to stop right there. So my radius is the square root of 26. This is going to make your life a lot easier if you do it this way, all right? So if I want to find my answer, I go back to my equation. So x minus 1 squared plus y plus 3 squared equals the square root of 26 squared, because that's my radius. Again, we just got to clean that up a little bit. So we get x minus 1 squared plus y plus 3 squared equals 26. That's the reason we keep it as the square root of 26, because if I take a square root and a square, they end up canceling each other out. Therefore, makes it a lot easier that way. Now, what a lot of people try to do is they just try to count. The problem is we can't tell if that's on the line or not. So you cannot judge by that. We know it's close to 5, but we can't say for sure. So you can't just automatically do that for a lot of these problems. All right? So let's go ahead and do this next one here. We're going to start with x minus 4 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals r squared. Again, we don't know what r is, so we're going to use this over here for x and y. So we're going to say that negative 1 minus 4 squared plus 1 minus 3 squared equals r squared. Negative 1 minus 4 is negative 5. Negative 5 squared is 25. 1 minus 3 is 2. 2 squared is 4. So we get that is equal to r squared right now. All right. So we add those together, we get 29 equals r squared. So r equals the square root of 29. And again, like I said, we're going to stop right there because now we're just going to write out our equation. So we say x minus 4 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals the square root of 29 squared. And again, just clean this up a little bit. X minus 4 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals 29, and we have ourselves an answer. All right? So you guys are used to that from Algebra 1, having to plug in an x and a y to figure out what should be the equation. You've done that with y-intercept and slope before. Now we're just doing it with the equation of a circle, okay? All right. If you know the standard equation of a circle, you can describe the circle by naming its center and radius. All right, and then you can use that information to graph the circle. So instead of them graphing it, you might have to graph it yourself. So this says, when you make a cell call, a tower receives and transmits the call. A way of monitoring the range of the cell tower system is to use these equations of a circle. Excuse me. Suppose the equation is x minus 7 squared plus y plus 2 squared equals 64. That represents the position and transmission range of a cell tower. Find the coordinates of the center and the length of the radius. So what they're asking us to solve for is we need to figure out what h, k, and r is. All right. Now, a lot of students get this wrong because they forget. This right here is supposed to be a minus, which means this 7 is actually a positive 7. All right. This y, or excuse me, after this y is supposed to be a minus. Therefore, that 2 is actually a negative 2. So you always switch these signs of it, all right? And then the radius is not 64, it's the square root of 64, all right? Which the square root of 64 is 8, all right? Now, what they would ask you to do in this case is to graph it. Give me a second and I'll go ahead and put a graph up. All right, so here's my ugly version of a graph. But guys, essentially what you're going to do is you're going to graph the center first, which means I go to the right 7 and down 2. So I'm going to go right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, which puts our center right here. Now, from that spot, we know our radius is equal to 8, all right? So from there, I'm going to go in 8 in every direction. So if I go 8, I end up here. Then I can go up 8, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which would put me about right here. Then I can go to the right 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which would put me right here. And then of course I can go down 8, which would put me here. And of course this is another version, you'll actually have a piece of graph paper, but that would make your circle. All right? So the next thing we're going to talk about, guys, is something that's going to help you with the graphing part as well. We're going to talk about Desmos, all right? Desmos is a graphing calculator that will be on your SOL. It can help you on the equations of a circle section of the SOL for sure. It can help you by finding the radius, as long as you have a center and a point. All right, so let's talk about how we're going to do that using this problem. It says to type the word distance, then you're going to do a parenthesis, then another parenthesis. You're going to put that center point, close parenthesis, comma, start another parenthesis. Then you're going to do the point on the circle and then 2 parentheses afterwards. All right, that sounds kind of confusing, but I'm going to show you how to do that just here briefly. We're going to use this one, all right? So we know that our center is at 4, 3, and it passes through negative 1, 1. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to go ahead and pull up our Desmos calculator, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to type in the word distance. All right. Then I'm going to do a parenthesis, and then I'm going to put another parenthesis just because that gives us the first point. So we're going to do 4, comma 3. That's our first point. Then another comma. Then we're going to do our second point, which is negative 1, comma 1. Close our parentheses, and then you should notice right here it says equals 5.385. All right. So now you know that the Desmos calculator will actually do the distance formula for you, so you can be able to find certain things using distance. So the answer to that would be 5.4 if you round to the nearest 10. All right. So 5.4 is what we'll get. If you need it in simplest radical form, it will not do that part for you, so that's where you got to kind of be careful with that. All right. So a second thing that the Desmos will do is whether a point is on a circle. So you can actually graph the circle and figure out if a point is on the circle. Here's how you're going to do that. First, you plug the equation of a circle into a Desmos. Then you're going to plug in all of the possible points to see if they come up on the circle. Key here, not inside or outside, but only on. All right? Now, the only problem is you've got to actually write this out as an equation of a circle. So, circle W tells me that that's my center, right? So we're going to start with x minus negative 4, which we know is x plus 4 squared, plus y minus 6 squared equals 10 squared, which is 100. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to graph this into the Desmos, and then I'm going to do all 4 of the answer choices to see which one actually works. So now for this, I would say instead of using the actual keyboard on your laptop, to use the other stuff. So we're going to do parenthesis, and then x plus 4, close parenthesis, and then squared, plus parenthesis y minus 6 squared. And then we're going to say that it equals 100. Now, you'll notice that my graph is a little bit out of whack there, so I'm going to zoom out to kind of see a little bit more. Now we can actually see it a little bit more. Now, what you have to do at this point is you hit enter, it leaves our graph on there. Now, what we're going to do at this point is we're just going to put all of the answer choices in there that it gave us. So the first one was 0, comma 4. If I do that, you'll notice that it's right, it's that black dot right there, that's not where it needs to be. So I'm going to get rid of that one. We know that's not an answer choice, but I'm going to keep it on there just to show you. All right, the next one we're going to do is 2, comma 10. So 2, 10. You'll notice that one's in red. That one is definitely not on there as well, so we're going to move on to the next one. The next one we're going to do is 4, 0. If we do that one is in blue. Now, it looks like it's definitely on there. So what I would do is just hold on to it. Let's go ahead and do the last one to make sure. So 6, comma 16. And you'll notice the green one is not on there. So the only one that is actually on the circle would be 4, 0. So that's our answer. So these used to have to be done by hand, but now that we have the Desmos calculator, it should make your life a lot easier. So your answer was the one in blue, which is 4, 0. So your answer would be C. All right. So those are your notes on 12.5, guys. Make sure you have these completed, and also make sure you bring your laptops to class, because we're going to go over the Desmos a lot more in there and show you a few other tricks it might do. All right.